So one way to really understand your customer is take a walk in their shoes. Figure out what is it, what steps do they actually go through. And this is called the value chain. And by understanding what a customer goes through and understanding the nature of things, what's the nature of what they do, then you can figure out where their pain points are and find opportunity. This is just the generic value chain of things that a corporation goes through, from its inbound logistics all the way to services. And so if you're interested in analyzing what a business does, here's the framework for that. Here's an example of a value chain map. I want to buy a book, and this is the pre-internet age. And so I have a need. The thing is, how do I find information about books? Because catalogs may not be available. And so I drive to the store, I walk to a section, and I review books. And so in red is all the things of the problem of having books. And so a lawyer who was analyzing this by the name of Jeff Bezos realized that internet solves a lot of these problems, that you can scan through a lot of information very quickly online. You don't have to go to the store. And not only that, but bookstores, like if I want a book on marketing, there's maybe only 10 books there. You go to Amazon, there are hundreds of books on the topic. And so that's how Jeff Bezos got started. All he did was look at the value chain of how to buy books. He thought there was an opportunity there. The thing is, Bezos all along was thinking beyond books. He figured if books have a problem, there are other products that have a problem. And he expanded. And so to figure out a value chain, you have to list out the steps, figure out the pain points, cost, time, selection, availability. Those parameters that went in the buyer utility matrix, for example, are things that you can look at. You have to innovate a solution, figure out, okay, how can I fix that? And does my fix create new problems? And that's one of the problems like with pharma. Every pill out there has a side effect. The question is, the side effect, is it bigger or less than the problem I'm trying to solve? And so finally, does it make money? Those are the things I look at. Here's an example of a value chain. Somebody thought, gee, when you eat mac and cheese, it's too hot. And so the value chain are these steps of making mac and cheese. And so their solution was to come up with the mac and cool bowl. All it is a plastic hollow container. You fill it with water, you freeze it. And so you put your mac and cheese on it and it cools down right away. Well, the problem with it is, how much value does that really add to your life? Because the problem is the mac and cool bowl, besides being somewhat expensive, it takes up a lot of shelf space in your kitchen. And so is it really worth it just for having mac and cheese? And so the solution naturally creates more problems. And not only that, the problem to begin with isn't that bad. When I first saw it, I just said to him, have you considered the fact that people use convective cooling? And they say, well, what's that? Yeah, just blow on it. People have been doing it forever. There are lots of good products out there. The pasta fork. What a great simple invention. Before that, your problem is your spaghetti would just keep sliding off your spatula, your spoon, or whatever. Corkscrews, screwing it in by hand, you do it crooked and all. Here you can do it perfect every time. The barcode, instead of having to put numbers down, have a barcode so you can automate it. The question is, though, how much would you pay for it? If a barcode was $5, nobody would use a barcode. So again, things have a value. You can apply the value chain to anything. And an example is basketball. And so what do you do in basketball? You get possession, you move the ball to the offensive end, you pass the ball around if there's no opening, and you shoot. And so points are equal to this equation. So you can sit down and figure out, okay, each of these steps, how am I going to make it better? I get possession through steals and rebounds. Moving it is turnovers, and so on and so forth. And so this is a foundation of building a good basketball team. Your philosophy of how you're going to go about doing this. Some examples are of the value chain is what the internet did in the beginning is it removed the middleman. Like, for example, you can just go ahead and make your own travel arrangements. There's no more travel agencies. The integrated circuit, the big thing it created was portability. Wireless, greater reach all the time. The microsensor, you can now physically measure what goes on in the world. In internet and mobile, we can contact anyone, anytime, anywhere. And so, an example of the internet of disintermediation is, for example, warehouse to consumer. Now you can sell products directly from the manufacturer to the consumer. You don't need the middle seller necessarily. Some examples of products. The early refrigerators were done with ammonia and it would poison people if it leaked. So they invented Freon. Automation. If you have something that's repetitive, people are going to make errors and all, so that's why they created robots. And so here are some different examples of, in terms of the steps in like web shopping. And so this is what you're concerned with, and here are some of the solutions that they've come up with over time to make the buying experience better. And so this is what Amazon did. And that's what Bezos looked at. Okay, well, for people buying online, what is their experience? And so he came up with the solution, all of it. So now guess what? There is no negative. There's only gain. And so if there's no reduction in performance, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take that chance and buy online. Another example of someone who used a value chain to create a business was Southwest. What Southwest realized is, okay, how do I make a profit? Revenue times cost. Revenue is how many people I have, but also how many flights can I get in? And so what Herb Kelleher realized is that if you're doing a short hop flight, and that's what Southwest is doing, most of your time is spent at the gate. And that takes an hour and a half to get people on the plane or off the plane. And so what Herb Kelleher did is he reduced that time. And he reduced that time down to a half hour. All of a sudden, by having such less time, he could have more flights. So he bumped up the revenue that way. And he also reduced the cost by saying we're only going to have one kind of plane. And so instead of having to support 10 different kinds of planes and all their parts. And that's how Herb Kelleher made Southwest. So here's an example. You can pretty much read this, that you look at the points for a value chain for a business, and then look at the points where you think there's going to be the most gain or the most pain. And so you look at the value types of what will help somebody. And so here are all the examples that are related to that. And so the value chain and the value proposition are tools that we have to tell us what is it that our customer values. And by understanding what a customer values, that pretty much tells us how we're going to promote, because that's what we're going to talk about.